to get us organized, and it's just so wonderful to see judges I voted for. You must have checked. Before I open the hearing, I have a public announcement and a statement, so I ask your consideration. And I first want to thank Governor Baker for providing, for the first time ever, public access through YouTube to the public for the past 2 years. When the legislators closed the State House due to pandemic, the governor's staff were concerned that the governor's council was having their regular hearings in the State House, but the public was not allowed to come in. It was not the council. It was the governor's office who established public access through YouTube. They found a way. It was provided by a staff member in the governor's office and someone working in the council office. No cost to the taxpayers. For the first time ever, people had the right to know who the governor appointed to the parole board, industrial accident board, appellate tax board, judges, clerk magistrates, and see the nominees at the governor's council hearings. I wish they could have seen all these wonderful judges on YouTube. It is important for the people to know. For me, it's important. I did not vote to close public access. I was the only council that did not vote. I would not vote in. I would not vote in private. I respect my colleagues, but I did not vote on the phone to close public access. A councilor told me he tried to reach me, and that each of the councilors he called voted on the phone to stop YouTube access as the State House was open. I respect my colleagues. I don't find joy in saying this, but I have my reputation and to speak to the people I represent. I believe that an elected body should vote in public. All votes and discussion should be in the State House in public. The council called and had access stopped in the website that the State House was open. Now, the council had no authority to shut it down because it was never discussed here, it was never voted, it was the complete initiative of the governor. And this is the letter I wrote to the governor.
Point of order.
Dear Governor Baker, thank you for providing public access through YouTube for the public. When the legislators closed the State House due to pandemic, you found a way to provide the public's right to know, as the council was meeting regularly for hearings in the State House throughout the pandemic. The council has received much correspondence from numerous organizations and people asking to restore public access. The council never initiated, never discussed, never voted for public access. Therefore, as it was solely an initiative from you, Governor, the council has no authority to restore this valuable public service. I am asking you, on behalf of the people of Massachusetts, to restore public access. Thank you very much. Best regards. Okay, so I just want to say that I have served 22 years, and I have attended every hearing except one, January 2001, when my husband died. So I'm telling you, we never had more than 2 at best from the public. We had the nominees, friends, and family, but no public. Only two parole board hearings that we got people. So people have been calling. You know, I tried 22 years ago for this, but we couldn't do it. And now we've had a light on the council. Now, I served on the Commission on Disabilities for 24 years.
Point of order.
I know.
Point of
I know
order.
the disabilities. You're out of order. You're out of order.
No, point of order. You're out of order.
You're out of order. You're out right.
So, this has nothing to do with the nominee.
So
This is supposed to be a hearing on the nominee.
I'm asking their consideration,
Mary, it's not
because
what
I have
it's
no
about.
other way to say to the people, I did not vote to close public access. It's important to me and for the people to know. And I'm saying that, I'm not gonna finish this, but I just wanted to make that clear that we didn't vote for it in public, and it shouldn't have been closed. And now I'm asking the governor, he's the only one that has the authority, we don't, to reopen it. And I am so sorry that you are not out there for people to see in Ohio, because this is how wonderful it's been. So now I'm going to open the hearing and welcome you. It's such a pleasure to see you again. It's been 20 years. And how remarkable, we don't look any older in 20 years. But this is unbelievable, the people that have come here to support you. And I just want to say that, well, first of all, I'm going to have you introduce the people here. And you go all around the room. These are the people that came to support you, and I think it's important that they be recognized. So, okay. So, first of all, I'm going to read the letter from the governor. I am pleased to nominate Robert A. Brennan to the position of Associate Justice of the Appeals Court. I submit this nomination for the advice and consent of the Executive Council pursuant to Part 2, Chapter 2 of the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I am enclosing the nominee's resume for your convenience. So now I'm going to ask you to introduce all these wonderful people.
Thank you, Council. Thank you again. So let me start with this go around. This is my daughter, Annie, my mother, Joanne Brennan, my middle daughter, Allie, my father, Tom Brennan, my oldest daughter, Jessie, my wife, Lynn Rooney. Chief Justice Green, thank you for being here from the Appeals Court. My great friends and colleagues over there, Randy Chapman, what's it, Matt Shera, Chief Justice Paul Dolly, my old friend and hopefully future colleague Amy Blake from the Appeals Court, and Jeff Caesar. So I just thank you all for coming in.
And we missed one behind.
In the back, oh jeez. Thank you. Justice Walsh, again, who's here as a witness,
Right,
no
right.
less.
Yeah, you better not forget.
Quiet and unobtrusive as always. I'm sorry.
I'll tell you, I am
Thank
so
you.
pleased that we're in person. This is so great. I'm going to read the letter. I did read the letter. Now,
Yes.
I want to say that before I open this, I'm going to ask the councilors, please, please, please put your cell phones away. Please give the attention and respect to the nominee and to the position that we hold. And with that, I am going to, I want to swear you in, and anyone who wants to speak, please stand up. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Thank you. Okay. So now I'm going to call on your witnesses that you have provided.
Councilor, if I may, I have relisted my third witness, David Sweeney, who was a former first assistant clerk in Salem, great friend, and who retired recently due to some medical issues. I hope to be here. He texted me this morning, and he just, with regrets, said he couldn't get himself down. He's got a condition with the nerves in his back that are flared up, and he just I have two witnesses of the three.
Witnesses. So, okay, all right.
Thank you.
Just said one of them not be
Here,
Right here.
Marilyn.
Okay, thank you.
here.
Okay. Okay, it's my privilege to introduce your first witness, the Honorable Paul Dolly. Welcome.
Thank you.
You can sit beside the nominee.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to the members of the council. For the record, my name is Paul Dolly, and the Chief Justice of the District Court. And it's my privilege to be here today to testify in support of Judge Robert Brennan, become Associate Justice in the Appeals Court. For the past 20 years, I have worked closely in the District Court with Judge Brennan as a coworker, colleague, and most importantly, as a friend. Before I tell you about Judge Brennan and why I think he would be a tremendous appeals court judge, I do want to formally recognize for the record Chief Justice Green from the appeals court, Justice Blake and Justice Walsh from the appeals court, and again recognize Judge Mashera, Judge Chapman, and Judge Archia, district court judges all here today. I'm especially pleased to be here to highlight Judge Brennan's contributions to the district court because they reflect not only on the outstanding work that he's done as a district court judge, but I think they also reflect on what type of appeals court judge he would be were you to confirm his nomination. In addition to his handling and deciding of virtually thousands of cases in the district court over his career in the past 20 years, his invaluable contributions to our court have extended beyond the courtroom and have had a very positive impact on the administration of justice throughout the state. He serves as a regional administrative justice. He's the first justice in Salem District Court. He's an associate justice of the Civil Appellate Division. He's a mentor. He's a member of the District Court Probation Committee, the District Court Case Flow Management Committee, and the District Court Administrative Committee. In addition, he has accepted special assignments on very complicated issues to handle various special sessions that have included the Hinton Drug Lab cases as well as the Greger special issues in which he was appointed to handle matters of statewide significance and very complex matters, I would add. I've witnessed firsthand his highly competent handling of these major responsibilities with diligence and intelligence. His work and career as a district court judge reflect professionalism, fairness, and competence in a way that has promoted public trust and confidence in our system. I respectfully submit that these outstanding skills and excellence he has demonstrated as a district court trial judge have well prepared him to be a highly effective appeals court justice. In this regard, he possesses strong intellect, strong writing and legal experience, including trial and appellate experience, considerable judgment, and the highest level of integrity. He will hear and decide cases based on fair application of the facts and relevant law, and he will do so, I suggest, with balance, humility, and fairness. He understands the impact of his decisions and the importance of his duties. He's open-minded, and he will consistently demonstrate fairness and impartiality, listening to many different viewpoints in order to achieve a just result. For these reasons, I respectfully submit that his professional and personal attributes make him an exceptional nominee for the appeals court. He possesses the exceptional qualities to serve on this important body, the appeals court. I support his nomination. I respectfully ask all of you to confirm his nomination, and I thank you for the opportunity to speak here today.
Oh, thank you. Does any councilors have any questions? Councilor Ainella.
I don't have any questions, but for the folks who don't know Chief Justice Paul Dolly, he does an outstanding job. You're a credit to the court, and I'm pleased to have voted for you on numerous occasions. You're doing a great job. It's good to see you.
Thank you.
Marilyn.
Council.
I just want to say, I echo the sentiments of Councilor Ainella, and I also want to say that I've known Judge Brennan professionally as a fellow judge, and I've also kept up because Joe Bernard's a good friend of mine, and he's raves about you. I don't have any questions for you or any of the other witnesses, but I think you'll make an outstanding appeals court judge. And I have to go because I just had an epidural, and if I had the right to sentence somebody to something really bad, I would sentence them to sitting in a chair after an epidural. So, wish you the best of luck, and I know you're going to do a great job. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Any other council? Councilor Juville.
Chief Justice Dolly, is there anything you'd like us to know on today?
Simply ask you to confirm the nomination of Judge Brennan.
We will do that.
Thank you. Thank you, Judge. Thank you.
Just a pleasure to see you, and what an honor to have you as a witness, really. It's amazing, but we thank you for all your service, too.
Thank you.
The next witness is the Honorable Maureen Walsh. Nice to see you again.
Thank you, nice to see you. And good afternoon to all the honorable members of the council. My name is Maureen Walsh, and I'm thrilled to be here on behalf of Judge Brennan. And before I do, I just want to take one moment to thank each and every one of you for the vote for the appeals court. It is a job that I absolutely love. I love the job, working for an incredible chief and incredible colleagues, and I've also been blessed and very fortunate to work with another incredible chief and incredible colleagues now. And I can't wait for Judge Brennan, hopefully, to join us in the appeals court. And if Councilor Curley was here, I was going to thank her, but now I don't have to, right? Let her know that I appreciate what she does with the district court. On a serious matter, there are 43,008 lawyers in Massachusetts. At least there were. Last time that I checked, which was about 10 minutes ago. There are 440 state court judges, and there are 25 appeals court judges. So this vote and this nomination is so very important to the administration of justice when you think of those numbers and the importance of having the council here to consider Judge Brennan's candidacy. It really is a rare thing to become an appeals court judge, one of 25 of 43,008. So the million-dollar question is, what is it about Bob Brennan that makes him so special, right? And let me assure you, I've worked with him for years. He really is. I'm not going to say this again, so you can listen. So, you know, as a judge, when you're really not exactly sure what way to go, and I think that some of my friends here in the district court will agree, what you do is you call your other judges and ask them, what do I do? So I did. I did a little survey just so that you could get an insight into the kind of person that those who have worked next to Bob Brennan, with Bob on a daily basis. And I said, what do you think? And I kept hearing time and time again, oh, he's a great judge, he's a great guy, great judge. And I said, all right, give me a little bit more, because that doesn't define what it is and what he will be to the court and to the appeals court. So when we drill down a little bit more, this is what my former and your colleagues had to say about you. They recognized how intelligent you were, not only book smart, but street smart. Time and time again, I heard about what a hard worker that you have been, that you're respectful to everyone, that you're humble, that you're practical, that you're even-tempered, that you're willing to take on a challenge and not afraid to speak up if you have a different opinion. And so that really told me so much about why I know that Bob will fit in the appeals court and why we're so looking forward to his perspectives and his personality. But I still didn't have exactly what I wanted to say personally about, seriously, like why I think he's perfect for the job. So I just want to share with you this, maybe it's silly, but it's important for why I'm really honored to be here. I drove from Western Mass to go to the JNC interview. And I pull up and I have my grandson, who we have raised with me in the car, because he doesn't get in trouble if I'm right next to him, right? He's 16 at the time. And so we were going to meet family after dinner, but I had Caleb with me. And who pulls in behind this big parking lot for the interviews, and we're all 15 minutes, go in and out, is Bob. And so instead of thinking about himself, and this is his night, this is his interview for the appeals court with the JNC, and someone's riding on it, he got out of the car, and I don't even have to remember, you shook Caleb's hand, you told him what a good-looking kid he is, which of course any 16-year-old boy is now just, thinking how great this is, and you talked to him. Right? So on one of his most important days, he showed his true self, which was to think about other people. And I can't tell you how much that meant to me. So Bob's more than just a good guy, a good judge. And I want to say this, is that absolutely, he's smart, he's a hard worker, he's respectful, he's curious, he's humble, all of those things that were described of him. But I would give credit to Joanne and Tom, to Jesse, to Ally, to Annie, and to Lynn for creating just this great person. Thank you.
Thank you. Any councilors have a question? Council.
Judge, I just want to say thank you for coming in. Last year, almost a year ago, you were the first person that I brought up potentially involved with the Court Officer Academy. And through your testimony and your experiences and what you witnessed, and your testimony that day that started what it has become, as a lawyer weekly call it, a new era, hopefully going for the academy and for what's going on. So that's going to change many people's experiences for decades going forward. I want to thank you for that, for your awesome truthfulness and what's going on and getting the ball rolling.
Thank you.
I was just going to ask you something. You've worked together a long time. Is there one case that stands out that that impressed you about this nominee?
I mean, so I would have to say it was a breathalyzer case because we were, I would all say, so thankful that the chief picked you instead of all of us because it was so difficult and it was so hard. And then he got so into it and he would come to the meetings and talk about engineers testifying and all the rest, and we're all like, okay, Bob, that's good, you know. But it was an incredibly difficult, long process to come to that decision that, if I have it right, it didn't make its way to the appeals court, which I think is a pretty phenomenal decision, that everybody respected his decision. But that was no easy task.
Yeah.
That's the one.
Well, thank you. I think I voted 2 or 3 times for you, and you've never let me down. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. I should have asked Judge Dolly about whether you had a case that impressed you about this.
I would say the same thing. The Ananias litigation regarding the breathalyzer did a phenomenal job.
Right, right. So is there anyone here that's not on the list that would like to speak in favor of this nominee? Please feel free. Okay? You're speechless. Okay, so having heard none, is there anyone in opposition? Okay, so now it's your turn to give us your presentation.
Thank you, Councilor Devaney. Thank you, councilors, for your consideration of my nomination as an Associate Justice to the Massachusetts Appeal Court. I want to take an opportunity to thank Governor Baker and Lieutenant Governor Petitto for this nomination, to all the members of the Judicial Nominating Commission and the Joint Bar Committee for the time and effort that they put into vetting judicial candidates, as well as the Chief Legal Counsel, Bob Ross, and particularly Executive Director of the JNC, Lauren Green Petrino, for her professionalism, sensitivity, and kindness throughout the process. I could not appreciate more Chief Justice Dolly and Justice Walsh for taking the time to be here for their friendship and support, not just, but especially today. You could not find finer people with whom to work, and I am proud to call them colleagues, and not just colleagues, but friends. I want to thank again Chief Justice Green for being here, Justice Blake, for my Region 3 guys, Judge Archia, Judge Mashera, and Judge Chapman, my sidekick from Salem, for coming in and showing support. Councilors, I have been remarkably fortunate in my life in so many ways, both personally and professionally. I grew up in Lexington, the middle of 3 children in a close-knit family. Our parents instilled in my brother, my sister, and me the paramount importance of family. We sat at the dinner table together every night, even if I was habitually late, trying to squeeze in one last game at a ball field or a court somewhere in town. And Sunday dinners with my grandparents, where we invariably engaged in spirited discussions on the issues of the day, were non-negotiable. My parents modeled the values that they espoused: honesty, integrity, hard work, but also common decency, good manners, and a healthy sense of humor. Each is a remarkable person individually, but they are even more remarkable as a couple. They overcame a variety of obstacles in their lives by finding the balance between principle and compromise. I could not be more fortunate to have them as my parents, who I am today, as a husband, a father, a friend, and even a judge, is a direct product of the love, support, and guidance of my parents. My closest friends, counselors, remain guys I met 45 years ago. But whether through luck or some undefinable talent, I have also managed to develop lasting friendships with amazing people at every stage of my life. In September, I will have been married to my best friend for 30 years. She brought with her a family that, although quieter and more reserved than mine, has been no less supportive or encouraging. My wife, Lynn Rooney, simply put, is the best person I know. She is an incredible role model for, and mother to our daughters. Her intelligence and quiet strength are complemented by gentleness, kindness, and empathy. Through her love of nature and adventure, she literally colorizes my life. And you know that if you came to my house, because every single room is a different color. I think this is one of them. Lynn was as talented a trial lawyer as I've seen, and is an exceptional judge. I don't think I'm breaching any great confidence when I tell you that just a couple weeks ago, Chief Justice Dolly commented to me that Lynn has probably contributed more than any other judge to the district court over the past decade. She is a terrific sounding board, and I am the beneficiary of her common sense advice on any number of legal and administrative issues virtually every day. My wife, Lynn, makes me a better lawyer, a better judge, and a better person. Last on this end, and perhaps best, I have the incredible great fortune of 3 daughters who have grown into smart, strong, and accomplished women. They are among each other's best friends and big supporters. Beyond that, they are a joy to their parents. They're interesting, funny, and fun to be around. Although each has her individual strengths, talents, and interests, all care deeply about the most pressing issues of our time, such as social justice, gender and racial equity, and climate change. In their outspoken and mostly respectful way, my daughters never hesitate to remind me that consistent and comfortable is not always correct, and that I need to look beyond the boundaries of my place as the most privileged group in the world, white, straight, financially secure men. So we're talking Jesse in particular, smiling at me. Counselor, beyond my family and friend, my greatest love throughout my life actually has been thinking of basketball. Learning it from my dad, playing it, watching it, teaching it to my girls, often during the most stressful times of my life, I found balance just in the rhythm of the ball hitting the pavement out in the driveway, with the sound of it going through the net. When I was 46 years old, I had a pretty significant heart attack while playing ball. I'm pretty sure that if I wasn't with my Sunday morning crew, I wouldn't be here today. Professionally, I was lucky enough to work for a person whom I consider to be the best district attorney in the history of our Commonwealth, Kevin Burke. D.A. Burke gave his Superior Court prosecutors the trust and backing to make the most difficult decisions, even if it meant not prosecuting a case, as long as they were doing what they believed was right. He created an environment that supported assistants like me, who believed in measured rather than zealous prosecution. This, I think, eased my transition from prosecutor to district court judge. As a district court judge for over 19 years, I have had the opportunity to work with so many smart and capable colleagues. Judges who mentored me, listened to me, challenged me to see issues differently, and shared experiences that are peculiar to the daily grind of a district court. I've worked day in and day out with outstanding and dedicated clerks, probation officers, court officers, and clerical personnel who do their best, often under the most difficult circumstances, to serve the public. I have been the first justice of the Salem District Court for 12 years, and could not be prouder of the culture and the personality of my court. I was lucky enough, counselors, to be appointed very early in my judicial career to be a regional administrative judge. What inspired Chief Justice Linda Connolly to make that appointment remains a mystery to me, but I remain thankful to her. Adding to my good fortune, Paul Dolly was appointed Raj, as we call it, in the southeastern Mass region at the same time. As I alluded to before, I could not have a better colleague or boss, and he's an exceptional leader and friend. Counselor, being a Raj has actually afforded me the opportunity to to expand the breadth of my experience as a judge. It has allowed me to move throughout my region, often sitting more than a quarter or two, sometimes even 3 in a given day, to problem solve, to innovate, and to experiment with different solutions to a variety of challenges. It has also afforded me the opportunity at various times to preside over a firearms court, a drug court, a mental health court, a community court for the unhoused population, as well as to pilot a program directed at reducing recidivism among high-risk probationers. Being a district court judge has exposed me to issues touching on mental illness, substance use, homelessness, poverty, racial, ethnic, and gender bias, as well as a broad range of legal issues, both criminal and civil. It is my hope that this experience, in conjunction with my background as a trial lawyer and a trial judge, will serve me well in the appeals court and enable me to add value to the already outstanding work that's being done there. I've always loved to write, counselors, although my responsibilities over the years have not always lent themselves to extensive writing. In 2015, as you heard, I was assigned to preside over a statewide litigation on the question of the scientific reliability of the breathalyzer machine. That case helped me to rediscover just how much I enjoy writing, and more specifically, the process of legal writing. And in many ways, I think was the impetus for me to apply to this position in the appeals court. Counselors, I have loved every day I have spent in the district court. The pace, the buzz of a busy courtroom, a variety of cases. And I do not doubt for a moment that a big part of me will miss the work and the people if I'm fortunate enough to move on. Having said that, I enthusiastically look forward to the challenges of appellate work and to new opportunities to contribute in different ways as a justice of the appeals court, should you see fit to approve or confirm my nomination. So I thank you very much for the time, and obviously you're here for any questions you may have.
Yeah, no, I will call on the council. I speak last as the facilitator, but I just want to say, last time you appeared, your children were little girls. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. They're beautiful. So any councilors have any questions? Councilor Iannella.
Thank you. I don't really have any questions. First of all, once your name was, excuse me, put forward by the governor, Councilor Terry Kennedy called me right away. A strong supporter of yours. He says you're doing a great job in the district court, and I have a lot of confidence and I have great respect for Terry. You said something today. I've been on the council longer than anyone. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. You said something today that I had never heard before. You told me who you are, and I give a lot of credit to your parents. What so impressed me, because I'm an old school type of guy, and you said I think you said you were brought up in Lexington, and you said, you know, the daily meals, every meal at night, or most of them, you all sat around the dinner table. And then Sunday, the big dinner for the family. You know, my family did the same thing. And even today, my kids are out of college, so they don't come around. But there are no hats. There's no baseball hats allowed at the table. There's no cell phones. You know, they go like this. That doesn't happen at my house. And yeah, every single night, doesn't happen, I shouldn't say every night, but just about every single night, we always used to sit around the table and had dinner together. Oh, what you do in school? What's this? So important to me. And when I heard that, you know, you never hear that from people. It told me a little about who you are, and that impressed me. Oh, there's no question. You know, you got a great educational background. UPenn, come on, it's Ivy League, you know, BU Law School. You know, you've done an outstanding job in the district court. We heard from Chief Justice Paul Dolly, from, you know, Judge Walsh. But that's what meant the most to me. We had a lengthy conversation on the phone. I don't have any questions. I wish you the very, very best. I think you're going to be an outstanding member of the appeals court. I just have a feeling you have compassion, you're hardworking, you've got a great family. Best of luck.
Councilor Iannella, thank you so much.
Thank you. Councilor Duff.
Thank you. Do you have a lot of friends in PB? Because they all seem to be calling me out.
I'm so sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. One of them is that guy David Lowy, my boss. He went to high school with me, and it makes me feel feel like a loser because he's on the state Supreme Court and he's younger than me. But anyway, yeah, you're beloved in the community and in the court. And I promised you I don't like asking people trick questions or anything like that. I don't think there's any point to it. I agree with you about Kevin Burke, great DA. But I do want to ask you some questions because I've been told I say the same thing all the time, so I should branch out a little bit. And one of the things that I observed a couple of years ago after the Criminal Justice Reform Bill, I can't remember what the part of the bill was called, but it was for youthful offenders to go and have, not their records sealed or expunged, there's another word for it, and I can't remember what it is. But I actually attended, because it was in my district, the very first case that was ever heard in the state. And it was a young man who had committed a burglary and stolen something from a woman. The woman came, now he's in his 30s now, he did this when he was a kid. And the woman who was the victim testified on his behalf. One, I don't give the judge to be really honest, and I'll give them the benefit of the doubt because it was the first case. I would then sue the law, which concerned me deeply. But the thing that concerned me even more is that the current DA sent 3 attorneys to oppose it. What's that about?
Because of that, I can't speak to the District Attorney Blodgett's position on that particular case. I do, as the first justice, I take virtually all the, at least the initial through, and then I get passed around with the motions to expunge and to seal. And I can only tell you that as a trial judge, I took very seriously the responsibility that and had the understanding that, you know, folks make mistakes when they're young, that they shouldn't have to live with for their entire lives, that what we do in court has massive implications as far as people's jobs, which then make difference as far as their families and their entire futures. And so you can only speak to my perspective.
And I appreciate that, and I don't expect, you know, John Blodgett's an old friend. You know, Dad went to high school with him. My dad got him his first job. But it was really disturbing to me because I thought, what is the point? You know, when does the punishment stop? And the nice thing about the appeals court is you're on a panel. You know, you have a balance and everything. But those are the real life things that happen. And, you know, and it's been, you know, to digress a little bit, you know, one of the reasons why I get, I guess critical would be the right word, the parole board at times, because it's not the keep people in jail board, it's the parole board. They seem to need some lessons in, you know, semantics. UPenn's a great school, a lot of friends who went there. I had the entire women's basketball team over for lunch once when I lived in DC. It was quite something to see that bus pull up, and they eat a lot of food. Now, you like basketball.
I sure do.
And did you play a particular position?
There's a point guard, yeah. Which is kind of like being a district court judge, actually, because you're there and kind of watching the flow and
I'm actually, I don't know how tall you are, but I'm pretty impressed with that. You've got to be pretty nimble to be a point guard. I am not even 5 feet tall. I am not a basketball player. I could probably do a lot of damage to you on the court, but not in a good way. Do you ever play against Justice Lowry?
I have not. I think I actually can shoot, though. That's the word. I'm still a little skeptical, but that's what I hear. You can quote me on that, too.
I have a feeling there'll be a gauntlet thrown down on that one. He's legendary with his basketball skills.
Best shooter I ever saw is in the room, though, Counselor.
Sorry?
Well, actually, best shooters I've ever seen in the room. That man right there, best shooter I explained you got to know when to set a pick, when to shoot, and my job when I was playing my dad was to set picks.
All right.
My daughters can all 3 shoot.
Good.
All 3.
Good.
I won't tell you who's the best shooter among them.
I'm more of a baseball person, but that's all right. So, am I correct that you believe in separation of powers?
Absolutely.
And you would never use your position as an appeals court judge?
No, I would not.
If you heard of a case, but since you're sitting on the district court now, that you had an experience with the person who was involved in the case, but you weren't here in the case, would you ever call the judge that was hearing about it, or
no?
take?
No, I just think you very clearly run your lanes. I mean, there's a
Right.
very strict recusal policy, and if I knew someone, I would. I mean, I would not.
Good. Because people get concerned about that there's such inside baseball, as I just said, that people are talking to each other. If you knew someone that was being nominated to the bench, would you ever call anyone on the JNC and say, I don't think this person should be there?
So no, Council, I would not make an affirmative call, but I've done my best when people call me to be as honest as I can. And sometimes to my detriment, because I'll leave it at that. But yes.
Now you know where your boss, because I don't know where you were going with that, but how is that different? How is that different? Wouldn't you say if you're sitting as a judge, I really shouldn't comment on that?
No, I think actually my view on that is that's just how the process should work, is that who knows other lawyers and judges best, but the lawyers and judges with whom they work. And so I think you have an obligation to answer honestly when the JNC or the Joint Fire Committee is vetting judges. That's a very different thing altogether. It seems to me that making a legal decision is part of my job, and sharing something I might know about a case or a person in the case with one of the judges who are on the panel beside me. Very different.
No, that's interesting. I have great regard for the JNC, and I am a strong believer in separation of powers. And so I can see where there might be a little where they would call somebody already on the bench. But I have to say, just, because I'm not going to press you on that, but it does disturb me a little bit. In that, not putting you at fault, but I think there are very fine lines in this stuff, because personalities come out, and there are people, who, Judge Green, I beat the crap out of him in this hearing. I think he's doing a good job. I don't think you can judge. I think you have to be holistic in your view of things. And I try to be. I'm clearly not the smartest person in the room. I'm always right about anything, some things. But I do, but it's to me it's a very sort of grayish area. But it's interesting hearing your perspective on it, because it gives me more to chew on. So what attribute, and thank you for your candidness and your honesty about, I'm not a straight white guy, but I'm a very highly educated, privileged white woman. And I walk through life with things that people don't have today, like an intact family that you described. Dinner at 6, this is your seat, and you better have read the newspaper. Because if you didn't, and you get asked a question you don't know the answer to, you're not coming back to Suffolk so you know what the answer is. But that's privilege, and I thank you for acknowledging that. And coming from an intact family in itself is privilege. So coming from that background, somewhat similar to mine, can you share any experience that you've had in your life that you think has helped form you to make you maybe more, I don't want to use the word compassionate, but empathetic isn't, maybe empathetic, I'm not even sure that's the right word either, but that will inform you as a judge when you're dealing with issues and people unlike yourself.
Sure. We all travel through life in different paths, and we come across friends from different backgrounds and different experiences. We work with folks who have very different backgrounds and experiences. I always say, and I said to kids, sports is the great equalizer. You play sports, and I spent a lot of time playing in Cambridge. I played in downtown Philadelphia a lot. I played in DC a fair amount, in the streets and on the courts. And you meet and you befriend and you get to know people who have very different experiences, life experiences. And if you don't draw from those in terms of forming who you are as a person, you're really missing out. So I've had a lot of different touch points in my life that I think have informed who I am today. And then just through work as a district court judge, you see people at their very worst many days. And some of them, granted, you're at a distance from, but others you kind of get to connect with. And if you're in a district court, like I have been in Salem for 12 years, on any given day, if there are 50 cases on the list, 20 of them it's how you doing, how you been.
Well, And I've said many times to my colleagues, and they probably get sick of hearing me run my mouth, that my time is coming up, but that the most important day of somebody's life, no matter what it is the day they're in court. It doesn't matter if it's an OUI, it doesn't matter if it's an estate, it doesn't matter if it's a small claims. And I was in Salem Court recently, just because I poke around, and it's a beautifully run court. They're doing a great job over there. So I appreciate your candidness, especially about where you come from. I think, and you did live in DC, that's a very interesting comment that you made, because my time as I went to college young. My mother started me in school at 4, probably to get me out of the house, but I had a lot, I was in DC, I tell people I lived here, but I grew up there. And it really, really has informed who I am as a person. Being a minority, and it's a very different experience than growing up around here, that's for damn sure. So thank you for your time. It's a pleasure to see you.
Thank you, Councilor Devaney. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Kennedy.
I probably appeared in front of you hundreds and hundreds of times. Granted, they were all motions to advance and continue. I've known you a long time. You know I'm voting for you, so I'm not going to ask you any questions. I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your family should be very proud today. That's the only thing I'll say. Especially your daughters. It's very, very unusual, as Justice Walsh pointed out. Very, very few people today do this.
Thank you, Councilor Kennedy. Councilor DePaula.
Thank you, Councilor. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Before I heard officially of your nomination, I heard from Councilor Kennedy, or I received a phone call. I screened it, obviously, but when I spoke to him, he indicated his strong support for you, and I know that actually he's spoken highly of you as a district court judge since I've known him. So that goes a long way with me. I do, however, want to ask you just a couple questions about your experience. I'd like to hear your perspective, especially as it's reflected at the hearings. So you have a great resume, you have great experience. You worked with an emphasis on gang-related drug and violent crimes in Lowell District Court for a while. So that's obviously a problem. It's a big problem in my home city of Worcester. What have you seen as being effective in addressing the challenges that presents? Have you seen anything in the district court that has proven effective, even in a small way?
So, in a small way, yes. I wish I could say in a larger way, but unfortunately, no. I mean, that's a scourge that was there 30 years ago when I was in Lowell District
Courts
Court,
can't fix it, that's for sure.
Yeah, that we can't fix.
Yeah.
I will say two things. I think drug court, and we have some folks here who actually run drug courts for a long time. I've been in them. Impact the community in terms of drug-involved people. I think that the probation approach that we took in Salem for a long time, with at least the high-risk folks that were drug-involved, was pretty effective in addressing it. But really, it's not. I mean, I think when you really cut it to its core, counselor, it's about community support. It's about counseling. It's about finding other resources from other places. The court slides in and fills gaps in many different places, the district court, because of the failure of other parts of society, government, and culture, or whatever you want to call it. I don't think we're the best place to fix those issues. I think we do our best, but I think really, to circle back, it comes down to more resources toward help and support and health, as opposed to criminal justice justifying everything.
Do you think access to guns is a problem? Or I suppose a lot of those are coming to Superior Court.
So no, access to guns is an enormous problem. It remains an enormous problem in many of our communities. In Worcester, as you know, in Lawrence, where my wife is the first justice, but I sit up there and have sat on occasion.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like every other case involves firearms. As you saw, if you looked at it, I ran a firearms section on the Lynn Court because at the time, the influx of guns into Lynn was astronomical. And we sat down with the defense bar and the DA. The court sat down and said, what can we do collaboratively to figure this out? And what that did was focus on gun cases that were languishing for 18 months, 2 years at a time. And we set a 6-month timeline. And we said, you know what, door to exit 6 months. And what that did is as you may or may not know, a lot of times when you have gun-related cases, you know, it's 4 or 5 kids in the car, and everybody gets hit with a gun. And so what it did was for the kids who legally were not culpable, you know, their case was over quickly. For the ones who are culpable, sadly enough for them, you know, it's minimum mandatory, and they were at least, at the very least, I suppose, pulled out of the flow for some period of time. I'm not sure it's the best approach to it, but that's what we did.
I'm very interested in the Harvard study, which is now kind of dated, so we need new data. But the sentencing disparities there, again, obviously you've been sitting in the district court, were most prominent with drugs and weapons charges in the Superior Court. Like 120-something days difference, controlling for the context that the report was able to control for. There's some, you know, conventional wisdom guesses as to why that might be. Do you have any insight as to why that might be?
My sense, and I've read the study a couple times over, is it's a function of minimum mandatory sentencing, because that's where you find the longer definitive sentences, and that's going to, it seems to me, skew the results significantly.
And so philosophically, you'd be opposed, or you'd be in favor of judicial prerogative, yeah?
So, let me say this. I know to run my lane, and that is a legislative prerogative. You guys have my personal philosophy.
Yes.
I believe that judicial discretion is the best way to go, and that's coming from a judge, so we do expect that to go.
So there's a dangerousness bill going through the legislature right now. Do you think that it would be a good idea to limit a judge's discretion in handling dangerousness hearings, and what would be eligible?
So as I understand the bill,
Yeah.
it expands the reach of 58A to include rape cases that are not, at least technically, violent. And again, it's the legislative prerogative, it's the governor's bill. As a person, if you ask me, again, a personal opinion on that, and as a judge, I think it would be an effective tool, an appropriate tool, and an appropriate expansion of that particular statute. But as an appeals court, whatever the legislature, as an appeals court judge, whatever the legislature decides, that's what I follow.
So you also were involved in the development of protocols for a pilot program on videotaping multidisciplinary forensic interviews of child victims.
A long time ago, yes, I was.
So what was the outcome of that pilot program?
So it was a pilot in Essex County. I will say, in the gauntlet, it was a long-standing practice in Middlesex, where my wife at the time was head of the child abuse unit. So it's just basically videotaping kids, because it was less threatening, and you could use the tapes, at least in some places in the grand jury. And what happened in Essex is it became the practice, and has been the practice there for 30 years, 25 years. It wouldn't be 30, because I would have been there 26 years ago, there about 27 years.
Did you come out of that experience or go into that experience with particular knowledge of child or adolescent psychology?
I would say not specific, no, it did not have to do with child psychology. Other than what I read and what I learned from, we had interview specialists.
Right.
So I would sit with them and learn from them, and that's how I understood it.
Okay. I don't have any further questions for you. As I said, I've had some conversations, and Councilor Kennedy certainly, as I said, has been your supporter before I even knew you were nominated. So
Thank you.
Council.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Council.
It's nice to see you again. First of all, I'm going to ask you something that is completely out of everything that you presented, because
Just a point about it, I don't think you.
oh, I'm sorry. Oh my gosh. Oh my God. This is the first time I've done this. I've got to get more sleep. Forgive me.
The good thing I did on that.
Oh my goodness. Okay, Councilor Ferrara, forgive me. Oh
You and I had a
my
great conversation.
goodness. You know what? I would have thought about it after I asked. I am so sorry. Okay.
I want to thank you for your service to the Commonwealth, all that you've done. Your resume is remarkable. Your reputation is stellar, almost as good as Brother Mike's. You're doing a great job, I appreciate everything you've done. You certainly have my vote.
Thanks so much, appreciate it.
One last question for the sake of lots of questions. Thank you.
I can't believe this. I am so sorry. Councilor Juvenile.
I want to say, I'm sorry. I have 3 great daughters as well,
So I appreciate your appreciation.
Yes, sir.
What you did in the protest, let me ask you though, how can the public have any faith in that machine used today?
So, Councilor Dugan, I'll stick, if I can, with what I said in my decision, because it's still active litigation, and I'm not sure I should comment because there are still outstanding issues that are yet to be decided as far as sanctions against the office alcohol testing. But my finding, and I stand by it, is that the machine itself reliably produces results based on the source coding, the algorithm, the manner in which it works. The problem comes in terms of, it has been, how the machine has been implemented by the Office of Alcohol Testing, how it's been maintained, how it's been put into service. And
The discovery issues.
yeah, those as well, Councilman Kennedy, as you well know. And again, if you ever follow my mate, here it is, but I respectfully might take a pass because I said, either I still have that if you don't confirm me, or it's going off to someone else, and I don't think it'd be fair to me to
Well, no,
talk
I'm not
about
trying to
the,
get anything like that, to
Sure.
sort of impede that, but,
Yep.
you know, Counselor Kennedy and I are in courts every day, and we do a lot of OUI cases. And everybody, defendant, family of defendants, when the blood test is brought up, publicly they say, oh, those machines are unreliable, those machines shouldn't be used. It's sort of a general consensus of everybody that I speak to, the layperson on the street.
Yep.
Yet, I guess we're using them again. So, you know, we like to have the public have faith in our judicial system.
Yes.
And to know that they go into a courthouse and things that are done are fair and reliable. How do you ever get that notion out of the public's mind?
You know, Councilor, it's a terrific question. And again, if you're asking how do we get it out of their mind, I'm not sure that we can. I'm not sure that that's a responsibility though of the judge necessarily. It seems to me my role and my responsibility is pretty narrow and clear. And,
Yeah.
but I think as a general commentary, yeah,
It's
I
not,
agree with you.
it's not the judge.
Right.
I don't know what a judge can do about it, to be honest with you. I think what was done with the discovery issue was just disgraceful. Another whack at our judicial system that shouldn't have happened. And I'm fearful that the more whacks our judicial system takes, the more people go out and not only criticize our courts and the justice system, but they have no faith in it and they do things, they take it into their own hands sometimes when they shouldn't. Interesting, because I've read a lot about your findings and everything, and what came to my mind was we allow in the machine with all these scientific issues that it does, but we don't allow in the lie detector. Just as a, you probably don't know the answers, but do you think with technology, the way it's advancing, that it won't be too far in the future that a lie detector will be deemed reliable?
Council, that's a great question, and I don't have a great answer for you. It might put a lot of us in the room out of a job, but other than that, you know,
Well, I can
it's
only
certainly
imagine-
conceivable.
I can only imagine that, I mean, when witnesses take the stand now, we jokingly say in our business that after the oath, the lying starts. And one thing I often thought is maybe it's the oath that causes the lie, so maybe we should stop the oath.
That's an interesting perspective.
But can you imagine technology being such that a witness would be on the stand and have his finger in something or on his thing, and if he lies, it would go off in front of a jury or a judge? Think about it.
I mean, honestly, I'm a great fan of science fiction and fantasy novels, and there you go. I'm not sure we're there yet, but if we ever got there, hey, as I say, you know,
Yeah.
it's certainly interesting.
I think Paul brought up dangerousness hearings.
Yeah.
My own opinion is, you know, from county to county, they're used differently.
Mhm.
Some counties, in my view, overuse them. In some counties don't. Depends on the DA's office and his philosophy. I think there probably should be more uniform about how we use these things, because they take away somebody's liberty, you know, based upon sometimes not too much.
So, Councilor Jubenville, you may or may not know, my region that I've overseen encompasses 3 counties. I have most of Essex County, I have some of Middlesex County, and I have Chelsea, which is in Suffolk County. And you are, I mean, no surprise to you, correct, that the disparities in the numbers and the nature of the filings of 58A hearings is vast. But that has always been the case, as I think you know, in terms of the discretion of the district attorneys and how they exercise it. And I think that is our system, and it's been our system. I'm not, as you know, as my kids say this because it's consistent. It doesn't mean it's correct, but that's what we are.
I had a case where it was a Superior Court dangerous. It was the district court first, but the DA waited until district court was almost up, and then indicted and go for that. Then the pandemic hit. I had a woman that was in for almost 2 years under the because everything got gestated. And I just thought that was really the bad part of that law, to put that in there, that it could be stayed. You know, take away somebody's liberty without even having a trial for 2 years was, I don't think it was proper, but in any event. So, I had a nice conference with you on an issue we won't go into, but I found you to be very fair and compassionate in that issue.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, you really were. And I've been before your brother Mike, and he's wonderful. But I gotta say, for your father, we had trials together. Your father was probably the fairest DA. I love trying cases with him. There was never any hidden ball. There was never any games being played. And he never took pleasure in getting you guilty and somebody had to go to jail. And I really enjoyed trying cases with you. You were a great DA, great trial lawyer. So. That being said, I'm going to vote for you next whenever we have our hearing. I forget the date we're going to do it now.
Councilor, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I think you have a wonderful resume, and I think, well, think about it. Terry and I aren't stupid. We're sitting here in a room full of judges, and if we do something wrong, boy, we are going to be in deep court. So.
Well, I'm not saying things that they don't like sometimes.
But it's a pleasure for me to vote for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. I did follow that rule on the right, and I went over, and then I forgot. So I was halfway there. Well, I'm going to ask you something first that is kind of off the side of all of the things that have been said and the letters and everything. But I like to kind of see what's going on in the different courts. So you're going to the appeal court. And I have not talked with Judge Green about this, and you know that, and we haven't talked about it. So he probably is very knowledgeable about the case I'm going to bring up. I'm going to ask you, this came up before the appeals court. There was a man walking 2 dogs. One was on a leash. The German Shepherd was not on a leash. And when they walked by this house, there was a woman with a little dog that was on the front lawn. And the German Shepherd came and attacked the dog, really tore him apart. So she went to the vet, and thank God saved the dog, and it cost $4,000, the surgery. So when she went to court, the judge ruled the dog was property, and he would allow $400. So she went to the appeals court. If you were a member of the appeals court, how would you vote? How would you judge?
So, Counsel, I'm not exactly sure what the issue is that's presented, but I think I can tell you, and I don't mean to be evasive, not doing that, but I don't know what the law is right now. I'd have to look at the law.
Well, I like your philosophy.
Hmm?
I like your philosophy. Okay.
And I'd apply the law. Whatever the law was, is what I would apply. I mean, I'd certainly, to the extent that this, you said the poor little dog got mauled, I'd feel horribly for the little dog. But at the end of the day, it seems to be my job as a judge, whether a judge in this court or a judge in the appeals court, is to take the law and apply it as it needs to be applied.
Well, not the answer I wanted, but
I'm sorry.
I was very proud of the appeals court because they ruled the dog was not property, and she was given $4,000 to pay the vet.
So,
Thank you, Judge.
thank you. Justice Sweeney, I will tell you, I
He
did not read that decision. I don't think I read it, I don't recall.
And Judge
It was
Green,
Justice Flynn.
and as I said, Judge Green had no idea I was even going to bring this up, but I thought that was an interesting case, and being an animal lover, I
As you and I
had to bring
discussed,
it
you
up
know, I
to you.
have two wonderful dogs, so I.
So,
sympathetic.
I do want to say that, you know, and I was impressed 20 years ago. I don't really like to see people that young, but you had it all. You had such diversity that you worked everywhere. One of the things that I was concerned about was right now, the increase of child abuse and murders, babies, toddlers being killed. And now you have set up something, and tell us about your involvement with that. And we go back 20 years that you've been involved in this kind of cases.
Right, I just don't know, could you be more specific in terms
Well,
of dealing with?
it's increasing,
Yes.
but, okay, so you have established a protocol, because it's very hard to have children speak. And they're afraid of the
I'm sorry.
parent and
Okay.
everything, so.
Okay. So when you said you, I certainly, and I appreciate you giving me credit, I cannot take credit for that. I was part of a team of prosecutors back 20-some odd years ago that, again, pulled from other counties and what other folks were already doing, and developed a protocol that involved videotaping children, again, for a variety of reasons, mostly to spare them from the stress and the trauma of having to testify in front of a larger room. So we had, as you know, a forensic interviewer who was specialized in dealing with children, and that's what we did.
Yeah, tell us about the drug lab scandal that you were involved in.
Sure. So my role, Counselor, was simply to take the cases that came up after the drug lab scandal, the Hinton lab scandal, and to...
Excuse me.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep. And to hear motions for a new trial on folks. But it was the Supreme Judicial Court made it pretty easy for us. I mean, it was not eventually, it was not a lot of heavy lifting brain work coming on that one. It was pretty straightforward in what to do, and a lot of folks had their convictions vacated based on the misbehavior that was occurring there.
Yeah. No, it seems like there's been such an increase, mothers killing babies and everything. And I was just wondering, you know, maybe it's just what I see is that when a child is killed, the perpetrator doesn't get the same sentence as if it was a grown person. Why is that?
So I'm not sure I can speak to each and every situation or why that is. If you're talking about shaken babies or that sort of situation, as opposed to obviously then again, I don't know that I can speak to what is more social and cultural phenomenon as opposed to a legal one. And as you know, I don't do those and haven't done those for a very long time. So I'm not as up to date probably as you are in terms of just what's going on out there.
Right. And then there's so much controversy about breathalyzers.
Yes.
And when we met, and thank you for all the time that you afforded me, I can tell you, like to write. Tell us about the writings that you included in your J&C, and that was about
Sure.
breath tests.
Yep, so one of them was the breath test, the breathalyzer case, the Colin versus Ananias, and they were actually consolidated, ultimately almost 600 defendants statewide in the case, and the issue was the reliability of the breathalyzer machine, it's called the Draeger 9510, and also the process through which our Executive Officer of Public Safety and Security puts it into the field. It was a long case, it both in length and breadth, and involved witnesses. We actually had the curve on video testifying. We had witnesses videoed in from Sweden, from Germany, from all over the world, really, in terms of who are experts on the issues. So that was one case that I dealt with, and it required a fair amount. I mean, my kids would probably go around, and my wife would tell you the dining room table was like stacked with papers and books, and for a while, they didn't have an office at home. So it was a pretty involved process writing that decision. And then the other decision was one I wrote as an appellate division of the district court bench that dealt with mental health issues.
I was very impressed with the you being the lead judge on that whole court, or it was more that's higher. Well, why don't you say it?
Sure. It's basically an approach to probation with respect to high-risk probationers. And the kind of gist of it is what we call swift, certain, and fair responses to violations of probation. That is the bedrock principle.
So what we've seen lately, and it seems like it's in colleges and everything going on, professors and everything with child pornography, and it's further than that. It's you know, child sex, and these people you know, keep going on. And we just recently saw a case with someone, and I don't know how we control the internet. It's really a concern of mine, because young girls are looking there and they see a picture of a handsome 16-year-old boy, and it's really a 50-year-old man, and we know what happens. And we just recently read this past month, and it was about a criminal who had done this before, but this time the girl died, and it was a 13-year-old girl, and he drugged her, raped her, and watched her die. And you know, I don't think justice is equal. I really, in my 22 years here, I've seen it, and I thought, how did he get 20 years? And yet, we just had 2 commutations for 2 black men. Life sentence without parole. Travesty of justice. I read the reams that I was given for both of them. 3 or 4 in the morning, I read all of them for weeks. I went to the prisons and I met with them, and I cried in the car. Do you think there's racial disparity in the court?
Unquestionably. Yes.
What do we do about it?
Well, we do what hopefully we've been doing, which is first is to recognize it. Secondly, as you know, Chief Justice Gantz pretty courageously did go out there and engage folks to come in and do a study on it, learn what we can from it, and then try and take it one step at a time, talk about it, which doesn't do a whole lot other than raise awareness, and then take the steps, again, that we're able to confront it. And it's a long process, so Council, we're not going to cure that today or tomorrow or next week or next month, and probably not in my lifetime, but I think that doesn't mean we don't stop, that doesn't mean we stop working at it. So we need to keep working at it and being transparent about it.
I want you to tell us about the case that, very important, significant, Commonwealth versus Ananias?
So Ananias. Yep, so that was the breathalyzer case that we talked about a little bit earlier, and it was just as I said.
Oh, right, that's
yep.
the one.
So
Okay.
that's the same case. Yes.
Yeah, okay. No, that was significant. What was the most rewarding through your 30 years when you look back? What was the case that was most rewarding, whether as a judge or as a lawyer?
So I would say it's hard to pick one, but I'd say the last major case I had as a prosecutor, which was a child abuse case that involved 32 boys and someone who had molested them over a period of years, and probably we think maybe it would have had sexually abused over 100 kids. It involved extensive interviews. It involved a rather delicate approach because part of the problem was that he engaged these kids and gained their trust in order to then abuse them. And so then as a man at the time who was probably, older than this defendant, but sort of in the same area, trying to forge a relationship with these boys while at the same time maintaining a distance and respect so that they didn't feel like they were almost living. It was a rather delicate balance. But at the end of the day, he actually pled guilty on the day of trial. And I think it was a tribute to the police work. It was a tribute to a lot of the work we put into it, and it saved a lot of kids a lot of trauma having to go through and live it and face this kind of. So I'd say that was probably the most rewarding case I prosecuted, and I'll leave it at that.
We've been fighting the war on crime since the 70s. I don't think we're winning it. And you have people that come before you, drug addictions. I've had 2 friends that their sons died of overdose of heroin. And it seems to me that there's a lot of legislation for drug addiction, but they don't seem to give money to open more treatment centers. We don't have very many treatment centers, do we?
I think it's one of the greatest frustrations of the district court judges. We have folks that need help and we can't find a place to put them.
And I know my 2 friends, their sons would be alive because they really tried. They really tried. But short-term treatment doesn't do it. And I don't know, I'm just hoping that you judges would collectively get together and demand that there be more drug treatment centers.
So I would say, Counselor, that we've done our best, and we have, as everybody's acknowledged, a phenomenal chief who's out there at the forefront of that. But the
Well,
trial court has its role, and we can only do so much.
I don't know what it's now, but when I checked a couple of years ago, it was like 1% of the budget was for judiciary. That's not right. I have no control of it, you know that, so that's where we are. So tell me, you've been on the district court. Why not the Superior Court? What attracted you to go to the appeals court?
So I would say, to the first part of your question, I spent most of my time as a lawyer on the Superior Court, and I enjoyed that very much. There is a different pace, and there's a distance in the Superior Court for the same type of work, frankly, that we do in the district court. And I just enjoyed, and I continue to enjoy, at least on that, I suppose half of me, the closer community role of a trial judge. Now, the appeals court is a very different animal altogether, as I think you know. And to me, what attracted me to that is that it exercises a completely different part of the brain. And it presents challenges, and both intellectually and analytically, that I don't face now. And it's, to me at least, again, just an opportunity to contribute in a different way. So that's the
well, I'll tell you, I'm impressed with your writing skills, because 22 years, I can't tell you how many I've seen. But when you talked about the cases you've had, I understood it. I mean, we've had some that they give you a sentence, one sentence, and you don't know what happened and who did what or whatever, but you do know how to write. And for me, that's very impressive, because I can read it and I can understand what the case was about, and that means a lot. And I know people in the district court, they don't want to leave the district court.
That is true.
You couldn't get Judge Pomeroy. I mean, that's the people's court,
That's true.
But then we had someone recently that only wanted Superior Court. She wanted a community court. And that's what my position is, that I want to make sure sending someone to the juvenile court that has been all their years of legal work. You don't want someone learning on the job. And they are voted here for people learning on the job. But tell me, did you go to the JNC again?
Yes, of course, yes.
How many people
On the JNC?
were there?
You know what, Counselor, it's tough to say because they were on a screen. We were in the midst of the pandemic, and so I'm trying to count the squares that were up on the,
Yeah.
I think there were, I think I do my math, there were probably 20, I don't know.
Oh,
I had one-
no. Don't tell me 20, because you get the prize. They've never been 20.
I had one in the room, but I think maybe because I was on Zoom, that it was maybe easier for folks to come in. I'm trying to count, there were probably 3 up and maybe 15 and 5 across, and they're all filled in between. So I'd say, but it was huge. It was like it was like that entire wall at a law office, and it was big screens. And I'll tell you, the biggest part of the problem is figuring out where to look, because I want to look at the people when I'm talking to them, and I realize I see on the side of my face that the camera was
So,
there.
you know the thing that concerned me about Zoom, about other cases, but particularly 2098s.
Yeah.
Because when I was, looking to see how the courts were proceeding, some were even on the phone. And I'm thinking, it's hard enough to know if that person is being honest, but when you don't see eye to eye and you don't see their body language, how do they proceed in the court with that?
You know, it was a very difficult time for everybody. I think we proceeded as required by the Supreme Judicial Court and by the trial court, which promulgated rules and policies as to how we would address those cases. And I think you're absolutely right. Certainly on the phone, and even somewhat less so on Zoom, it's more difficult than in person to assess someone. But as you know, I mean, we weren't the only folks, we in the trial court, dealing with the awful manifestations of a once-in-a-generation pandemic. And I think did the best we could, and I think across the board, and not to pat ourselves, I think the district court did a very, very commendable job of working really hard to accommodate people under very, very difficult circumstances, as best as we could.
Well, something I saw that you're doing, your outside activities. In my experience, when you get a young nominee, they don't get involved in that. And I'm very impressed, and I want to give you an opportunity to talk about that with the seniors, with the high school, all of that. I think it's wonderful because people don't know. A lot of people have never been in a courthouse, so they don't know the procedures. So tell us about all those activities.
Sure. So I mean, I don't want you to think I'm the only one doing it, because far from it. In fact, I would say that other district court judges in the room have done as much, if not more, in that regard. But I mean, we have a terrific opportunity as district court judges in a community court to reach out to the community. And so part of that may involve, as I said, it did in Salem, at times inviting groups of seniors in to go through the court, to ask questions, to get a sense of what it looks like. I think it's over, Chief. Was it over Public Outreach Month? I don't know. Last month was Public Outreach Month. March. So we're still in it. Thanks.
Yes, we are.
Thank you. So we have a lot of judges who are out in schools, talking to kids, kind of giving them a sense as to what we do and taking questions they may have. So, I mean, we have a pretty rare and really excellent opportunity as district court judges to reach out into the community and within the confines of our job, inform them what we do, which hopefully increases, as Councilor Jubenville said, public confidence in the court system. And I'm proud to have done some of that, although again, not nearly as much, I'll say, as Judge Michelle did. So.
Have you been involved in the specialty courts?
So yes, but not again to the same extent as others. As I indicated, I have been in and presided over drug courts. I did not run one. We don't have one in Salem. I was the acting presiding judge in Cambridge for 4 months, and during that 4 months, I ran their community court, which is for the unhoused or homeless population. I ran the mental health court. I've done, although it's not a specialty court, Changing Lives Through Literature, which is a program that deals with probationers after hours, and basically it's like a book club with probationers. And we took a little bit of a different approach, as I think you talked about before, where a lot of places were doing specialty courts. Up in Salem, we did Hope Probation, which to me, in many ways, impacted the community similarly, just on a broader base. So that's my experience there.
Well, I personally was very impressed with the drug court. And I sat in the back and tears came to my eyes. Some of those people, years and years, drug addicted, alcoholism, and what it's done for them. I went to the graduation, that was fantastic.
I mean, I can tell you my father, against a lot of opposition, created the first drug court in Lowell,
Yeah.
and it was a great success, and I think as beloved as he already was, he was even more so after that experience. So, yeah, so I'm pretty well versed and educated in that.
Well, we received letters, and one of them I want to read
Excuse me.
completely
Excuse me, Madam,
because
15
it's
minutes,
from Justice Lowey.
Excuse me, Chairman, Madam Chair.
Dear
It's been
Counsel,
15
I write in
minutes.
support of Robert Brennan's nomination to the Appeals Court with enthusiasm and confidence. Judge Brennan has been one of the most respected judges on the district court for many years. He always has had a reputation as a brilliant and hardworking jurist who brings integrity, preparation, and thoughtfulness to each case that comes before him. During his judicial career, Judge Brennan has aged well into the job. He is viewed as engaged, fair, and empathetic. He is able to preside over an active courtroom and courthouse efficiently, while still being sensitive to the challenges attorneys face when trying to manage a busy practice. He has also been a phenomenal administrator, both in his role as a presiding judge and a regional administrative judge. Appellate courts are strengthened by having former trial lawyers on the court. The experience of being in the arena and trying a case is invaluable in being able to digest and evaluate a record. Judge Brennan appeared in front of me on murder assignments, arraignments, and other major felony arraignments. When he appeared before me when I was a district court judge. He was always meticulously prepared and fair in his representation of the Commonwealth. Appellate courts also are strengthened by having former trial judges on the court. Unfortunately, former district court and Boston municipal court judges have been underrepresented for years on our appellate courts. That seems to be changing, and in my view, is a change for the better. The earned perspective of a district court judge can be invaluable in helping the appellate panel consider the practical implications of a decision. I worked in the same courtroom as Judge Brennan for many years. I was the regional administrative judge for the Essex Superior Court, while he was the regional administrative judge for District Court Region 3. We worked together closely in managing the courthouse and shared countless lunches together. Judge Brennan is a man of integrity and honor. When you combine that with Judge Brennan's wisdom, experience, and intelligence, you have the makings of a great appellate judge. We received 4 other letters, and one from Howard Whitehead, Associate Justice of the Superior Court, a beautiful letter, and talked about that you're bright, personable, persuasive, knowledgeable of the law and rules of evidence, and they have blossomed through the years. And you have been one of the standout members of the court, and he goes on that you possess skills, highly complex and protracted litigation surrounding the accuracy of one of the breathalyzer devices most commonly used in the Commonwealth. And he goes on and to say that when he speaks, people listen. Importantly, he will bring a strong voice to the appellate bench from a district court perspective. And then we got a letter from John Yang, and he talks about having you in town and how you transferred your skills and knowledge of sports and your involvement in the community. And he says about your loyalty and dedication to the community, and he highly recommends you. Then we got a letter from James Milligan, and he talked about you as an asset on the appeals court, and talks about your work ethic. And he's been practicing 23 years, and he has defended a lot of clients operating under the influence of alcohol and drugs. And he talks about your abilities and the organization, analysis, rulings, and demeanor during your litigation. And he said what your time was contentious, was nothing short of impressive, and certainly instilled absolutely trust in the legal process. And he truly appreciates the opportunity to write this letter. And I can't read them all, but I did want to read Judge Lowy. But I do want to say that the council voted a rule. And the rule is that we can only talk, counselor and nominee, 15 minutes total and time. I was timed last time and I was cut off in mid-sentence for the nominee. So I have not timed myself, because you know why? To me, this is the most important day for you. Outside of getting married and having children, this is the only time you're talking public, and I want to give you the opportunity to talk about your qualifications and your experiences and your pro bono work and your family, and that's what I do. So I'm presiding, and I broke the rule.
No, you don't.
So anyway, I am very pleased to see you again, and I can't tell you, I'm ecstatic seeing all of these people from the court, Amy, all of you. And well, Amy and I have, we go way back. Our husbands, my late husband was a firefighter like her husband. So it's just wonderful to be among friendly court people. And I don't have a poker face. I was so happy to see a name come before me, and to think that you didn't move out of my district and I still could preside. So I'm going to adjourn now, and next Wednesday at our public assembly with the Lieutenant Governor, I'll present your name, and I'll be very pleased to be voting for you. And I thank you all for coming. We haven't had this in years, and it's wonderful. Thank you for coming.
Hey, Terry, can I keep this thing?